You're listening the Virtual CISO podcast, providing the best insight on information security and security IT advice to business leaders everywhere.
I gotcha. Yeah, and then I've read some stuff about like off-chain. So really what you just have is a hash to something which is off-chain. So the person doesn't really have access to it anyway. Okay, I gotcha. Interesting. So, and I think this was sort of the premise of your thought process of ideally implemented Web3 technology effectively can solve the privacy problem, right? Okay. So, which I thought was really exciting. So we've got containing the swamp, but we've got a swamp. I mean, Facebook's not going away. YouTube's not going away. Twitter's not going away. I've been on the internet for a long time. My information is out there. It's all over the place. I am stupid enough that I have an Amazon device in my house, and I'm willing to pay the price for that. And I understand I'm letting people in, but I don't do anything all that exciting anyway. They know I drink a lot of bourbon. They know I like stouts. Okay, yeah, you know that. You want to advertise them? It's probably good. I'll know about the new ones. So what I want to talk about whether I can use the same technology on the other side of the equation, right? So if I'm a company that has this data, and now we have, fortunately, I'm an advocate of it, new laws and regulations that are trying to protect us, GDPR, CCPA, VDPA, all of these new regulations. Are there ways that we can use these same technologies from that side of the equation to help us comply with these regulations? Specifically, right, the ones that are the most challenging, I believe, right, or anything associated with the data subject access request, right? That right to present, that right to edit, that right to the most important one, not the right to forget. Can you help us there too, please?
Yeah. So I think some systems, we still have mainframes, right? In a lot of organizations.
There's a lot more mainframe out there than you think.
Yeah. We're not going to sort of retroactively solve all of those things, but think about how many times people start up or organizations start up new applications, right? New applications, new services, they launch them and they're like, great. The first step is, can I please collect 75 different pieces of data about you? And then all of a sudden I now have to have GDPR because I've collected all of this data about you. So to your point about, could I just, have a hash of, yes, I'm confirming that this person meets all these requirements, but I don't actually have to own that data myself? Mm-hmm. Then think about the data collection and privacy burden, how much that gets reduced for those companies, right? So I don't think overnight all those companies are going to retroactively do that, probably for a lot of their existing applications. But if they started to do that for their new applications, over time they are going to sunset their old ones, right? Over time, even the longest lived companies, sort of go into obscurity, right? And so you will see that shift in, great, if I don't have the burden of GDPR compliance because I don't actually own that data and I'm not seeing it, I'm just seeing sort of a hashed version of it, or I'm just seeing a pseudonymous version of it, then that's not only better for the actual compliance, but that's better for my burden, right? I don't have to manage that data. I don't have to let you know when there was a data breach. I don't have to, even say, yes, this has to comply with GDPR because I don't ever see that data. And that's not going to work for every application, right? There are some things where you're going to need that. But the number of times that I'm asked for my birth date and I'm like, you don't need this, right? You need to know that I am much over.
You're 25, 26?
Plus, exactly. But, you need to know that, Mr., producer in Champaign, that I'm trying to go visit your vineyard's website. Please let me, please let me access it. But you don't need to know my actual birth date.
Gotcha. So just make sure I understand this. So in terms of where blockchain has this advantage of having the immutability of the blockchain, in a sense, creates a problem for it being used with privacy if we were to actually store the private information we might want to delete, right? Because by definition, it's immutable, right? So that is where this concept of offsite storage with a hash gives us the the value prop associated with the DLT, right? But yet we get around that issue where we actually can't delete data. So it would make it easier for us to delete the data, because if we wipe the hash, any reference, any reference or link, or if a smart contract us off that, right, a capability for us to access that data is gone.
That's right. And I think, a lot of times when the technology first started, it was sort of this absolutist, well, you must publish everything to the blockchain. And that's not really, I don't think that's practical. I don't think that's how this is going to evolve. I think people are going to recognize there are things that like you said, I want to keep off chain, but then I want to keep a record of proving them on chain.
Gotcha. So Hedera, if I got the pronunciation right.
You did.
Good. I'm 2 for 2. I should quit now. So thanks everybody for listening. So Hedera, and again, I am not Web3 knowledgeable. So when I look at your website, I'm a little confused, but it appears to me is that Hedera basically provides the tools that a developer would need to build an application, a Web3 application that leverages the concept of blockchain. And it looks to me like you're famous for something called Hashgraph, which is an alternative, an alternative to blockchain, right? There's both of those are, if I got it right, both of those are DLTs.
So,
but Hashgraph is a different implementation of DLT than blockchain. Is that close to right?
Yeah, so maybe I'll rewind a little bit.
Loose translation. You're gonna correct me, and you just did it. You're just saying it in a nice way. Look, you could just say, no, John, that was idiotic. I mean, like other people do. I mean, my wife tells me it all the time. So
I won't go there. It is confusing, right? I mean, this is we're still in the phase of like explaining TCP/IP to users, where people are like, I don't care, just show me how it works, right? So
just bring the web pages up. That's all I need to know about.
Exactly. Just show me the application. And I will say we're getting closer there, right? So Hedera is the network, right? You can think about it almost as the equivalent of the AWS or whatever else you would run your infrastructure on. Hedera is that layer 1 network. The way that the Hedera network runs is it uses something called the Hashgraph algorithm to come to consensus. So blockchain and for example, Bitcoin uses a different kind of consensus mechanism. It requires somebody to go do a math problem. That's why it's called proof of work. And then, the person who solves that math problem fastest gets to write the next transaction to the network. Hedera uses a Hashgraph algorithm, which uses something called gossip about gossip to actually write transactions to the network. And so, yes, Hedera provides there are tools and other things that both Hedera and the broader community have created so that people can go and build their applications on top of that network. And there's a whole ecosystem of both open source tools and other infrastructure that is being built on top of and with Hedera to make that network function, right? So if you can imagine very early stages of the web, not a lot of APIs, not a lot of other things that sort of plug in. We're seeing that same kind of maturation of the technology stack with blockchain and the other services that are built on top of it, so that over time it gets much easier for people to build their applications.